All right, let's continue with the yesterday's class. So in yesterday's class, we understood about what is SQL, what is database, right? SQL in the sense basically a language which is used to communicate with the database, right? Database is nothing but collection of data where we will store all the data together is nothing but a database, right? And to come where if we have basically we will store data inside database, and whenever we wanted to display some data or whenever we wanted to we have some requirements with that data, we will use SQL to communicate with the database, so that by using SQL only we will convey our requirements to the database, right? So I said SQL is case insensitive. That means this is MySQL workbench basically, right? MySQL is one of the tool within SQL. SQL is a language. It is a universal declared language. Again, to use this language, we have so many tools in the market, right? Like Oracle SQL, MySQL, SQL Server. Those are all the tools from different companies we have, right? So MySQL is a tool from Oracle company, and this is an open source platform. That means it is freely available for everyone. That is the reason most of the companies nowadays are preferring to use MySQL, right? And that is the main reason, you know, in our course we are learning about MySQL. I mean, we are using basically MySQL tool to learn SQL, right? So this is case insensitive. Here we can use uppercase or lowercase, no problem. Right, next I spoke something about comments. In every programming language we will use basically something called as comments. That is, whatever we will write inside comments that are non-executable, right? So normally we will write something here and we will execute, but if I want something to be non-executable, like if I wanted to write some notes, if I wanted to add some extra points as notes, we will write that inside comments. So we have two types of comments: single line comments, multi-line comments, right? Single line comments in the sense, in one single line if you are writing something, that is single line comments, and the symbols we will use for mentioning single line comments are this one: either hash or like two hyphens, right? That is what you can see. I wrote two hyphens before here, each and every line. Either we can use hash also. Okay, next, multi-line comments. If I'm writing multiple lines as comments, like 2 3 lines or one paragraph, then we will use this symbols: hash and star to start the comment, to end the comment star and hash, like this, right? In any programming language we will use the same almost, especially this one would be same. Okay, next we spoke something about syntax here, right? Syntax is in the sense the rules. Just a second, guys. Okay. So syntax in the sense, here in SQL we have all the syntaxes. To do each and every task, we have some syntaxes. Okay, we need to follow that syntax only. So after understanding those points, we started creating the database, right? This is a MySQL workbench. Here you can see towards the left side, I'm having all the list of my available databases. By default, whenever you install your workbench, you will have only sys database. Once you create any other databases, you can see the list here like this, right? So here we created one database yesterday, and to create the database, syntax is create database name, right? So that is what I did: create database. I gave SQL morning as my database name, right? We executed it. Let me just execute once more very quickly. And one more thing you can see, as I said yesterday, this is our output section. After executing, if we can see the output here, right? And whatever databases we will create, whatever tables we will create, those will be unique one. Those should have, I mean, we cannot use the same names again and again. The database names and table names should unique. Okay, should be unique. We already created SQL morning as a database. If again I execute the same thing, to execute what we will do, we will select this, and here is the execute button, right? I'm just clicking here. You can see I got a error at the output section saying can't create database SQL morning, database exists. That means I cannot use same name again, right? It is showing me it is already existed. I already existed. I mean, that is already existed. I cannot create that one. Correct? So let me just change a name. I'll write it as SQL morning one just to let you know once again if any students are new here. Okay. I'm just selecting this. We are executing. It got executed successfully. And once I execute once we create any database, next we need to activate the database, because here we are having so many databases. If we don't activate the database, and if we normally execute other statements, like if we are creating any table, if we are executing any other SQL statement, SQL will get confused that which database to use. Okay. So for that purpose, we need to activate the database first. Okay. For activating the database, we'll use the syntax use. Use is one command. Use it for activate the database. Okay. Syntax is use database name. So that is what we did. Let me just change the name to SQL morning 1. Here you can see I don't have SQL morning 1 because just now I created this database. Once we create any database, to make to visible here, to reflect here, we can refresh here. We have something called as schemas here. Below schemas we have all the list of the databases. We said we are having refresh button. We just let me click on this. Now I got my new database, right? Let's activate the database. Use SQL morning 1. I'm selecting this and I'm executing. You can see it got highlighted, right? The color is also changed. It got highlighted. That means now this database is in activation. Whatever queries I will execute, all those queries will be executed under this database only. Okay. Without activating, if I normally execute anything, SQL will throw me error because it will confuse which database to use. Okay. That is one more point. I hope I'm clear up to here.
Yes, ma'am.
Perfect. Next, we created database. We activated the database. Now we need to create the table, because inside databases, we will store the data in the form of tables, right? So we already wrote yesterday, create table syntax also. This is the syntax. Create table name for all the table names. Suppose here what we did, we used employees table. Suppose employees is my table name, employee ID, name, salary, date of joining are my columns. Okay. So create syntax will be like table name, create table name. Within the parentheses, I need to mention column names. How many columns I want, that many column names I can mention. And for each and every column, we will define a data type, right? So what is data type basically? As I said, by using data type only, we will decide what type of value we can store in that particular column, right? Because, for example, we saw yesterday, suppose if I am storing any data in Excel file, right? We saw it. Suppose employee ID is there. Let me write like this. And this is ID, and salary column is there. I know in employee ID, suppose I'm entering some data like this. In salary column, I'm entering some data like this, like 10,000 or like that. Okay, 20,000. So in Excel file also, I can store all the data, right? But what is the need of databases actually? Because in Excel file, if we store the data, we have some disadvantages, we have some limitations. That is the reason, to overcome all those limitations, databases came into existence. In that, we have some limitations which we will discuss going forward. First limitation is that, about the data size, we can store up to 1 million rows only, 1 million records of data only we can able to store in Excel file, right? So what about big data then? If we have so much of data, more than 1 million, we cannot store in the Excel file. So for that, this is also one reason why databases came into existence, because we can store in databases. We don't have any limit of size limit like this, right? We will discuss each and every limitation of Excel going forward. For now, let's try to understand about one other limitation. Among all the limitations, we have one other limitation, that is, here suppose ID column is there, salary is there. In salary, as I shown you yesterday in Excel file itself, but now I'm not opening it, just randomly I'm showing here. Okay, So suppose in Excel file, I'm having salary column like this. I'm having some numbers. Instead of that, suppose I randomly enter any name or anything randomly like hi or any letters, it will accept, right? It won't throw me an error. Whatever we write, Excel will accept, right? If we knowingly or unknowingly enter any wrong data or irrelevant data, Excel will accept. It won't throws any error for us. But basically salary in the sense we will have only numbers. If I enter character data also, it is accepting. Correct? So this is one of the drawback of Excel. So to get rid of this drawback, we want, as we are dealing with big data nowadays, not only nowadays, from years ago, we are as usage of data is increasing, as we are dealing with the big data, we should have systems, in such robust that whenever we are entering any wrong data, it should alert us or it should throw us error stating we are wrong, right? If we have such systems only, we can maintain the data in a proper way. Due to this reasons, this is also one of the drawback. This was one of the drawback in Excel, and that drawback is overcome in databases with this data types concept, right? Because every column, whenever we are defining here, we will define some data types for that. Accordingly, that data types again, obviously whenever we are entering some data, we know what kind of data we will enter, right? Accordingly, we will define the data types. And according to that data types only, we can enter the data. For example, salary is there. If I want it, we know we will enter only numbers. So, sorry. Accordingly, we will define data types, and according to that data types only, it will accept the values. If I enter any character data, if I enter any dates, it won't accept, right? That is a that is about data types basically. That is what we wrote. What type of value we can store inside that column will be decided by using data types. Okay, whatever data types we define by using data types only, it will be decided what type of value we can enter in that particular column, right? So how many data types are there for us? One is numerical data type, character or string data type, date time data type, right, which we saw yesterday. Numerical data type is in the sense it's a two type, that is usually we will uh, use it numerical data types to store the numbers, right? And again, it further divided into int and float. Int in the sense it accepts only numbers, right? Whenever we wanted to store numbers, we will use data type as int. Float in the sense it accepts decimals also. Along with the numbers, I can enter decimal values also, right? Next, character or string. Obviously, to store character data, we will use this function, and it is divided into again two times, char and varchar. What is the difference between this? I'll tell you just now. Okay. And char and varchar, right? So whenever we are defining character, as I said, whenever we are defining any character data type, we will define size also, right? Which I'll show you in this example. Next, date time data type in the sense it will store in this, we can store dates, right? If it is only date, we will use data type that is date. If we wanted to store time also, we will use date time data type. Okay, so like this. Date format will be this one, year, month and date. Date time format will be this one. We need to use this format only, year, month, date, hour, minutes and seconds. Like this we need to give, right? Next, so as we understood what are data types, now let's see uh, example of table creation, right? We created employees table here, create table employees. After that, within the parentheses, I gave some column names, employee ID, employee name, salary, date of joining, right? So for that, accordingly, we define the data types. Employee ID, I know I'll store numbers, so I gave int. Employee name, I used char. I'll explain about char and varchar now, just now, I mean, in a while. And I said here one more point that whenever we are defining character data, we will define size also. That is what I did here. After writing char, or varchar. Within parentheses, we need to define the size of that particular column. That is, here I gave 10 as the size. That means if I create like this this indicates that I can enter only 10 characters in this particular employee name column. If I enter 11 character word, or that is 11 letter word or 12 letter word, more than 10 letter word, it will throw me error because I defined the size of this column name as 10 only. I reserved only 10 bytes of memory only for this particular column name. So I cannot enter more than this thing, right? Accordingly, we will define. Next, for salary, I gave float. Date of joining, I gave data type. Right? Just a second, guys. Sorry, guys, for keeping you on hold. Let me continue. Actually, I'm not feeling well from yesterday. That is the reason. So, yes. So here, as we are using another database, let me once again create this table. Okay. I'm just selecting this and let me execute. Table got created, right? And after creating the table, we can insert the data inside it, right? So now let me refresh once again. You can see I can able to expand the tables like this, and I got employees table, right? If I'm selecting here, you can see the column names and the data types also here, correct? So all the column names and data types also can be visible whenever we are selecting table name like this. So just now we created the table, and let's insert some data inside it. That is to enter some data. What we will do, we will just use the insert command, right? That is insert into employees. This is our syntax. Insert into table name. Values is a keyword which we need to use. After that, we need to use brackets, and within the brackets we need to enter the data, right? This is my first row of data. As how we define the columns in that sequence only, basically we will enter the data, right? Employee id, employee name, salary, and date of joining. And after every column of the data, basically wherever you see a comma, that indicates it is a separator of that column. One belongs to employee id, Raj belongs to employee name, like that. So once I close it the bracket, within this brackets whatever I enter, this will be my first row of data. After that, I'll use a separator comma again, and I'll enter second row of data. Like that, we will enter how many rows we want, right? If you observe, for character data and date data type data, I used single quotes. Either we can use single quotes or double quotes, anything is fine. But for numbers only, we don't use quotes. For character and date, we will use quotes basically. Okay. So let me execute this also. The data got inserted, right? Now we created the table, we inserted the data. Let's display the data by using select command. Okay, select is one command used for displaying the data. And the syntax is select star from table name. Star in the sense, technically we'll call it as asterisk. That means whenever we want to display the complete data, we will use star like this, right? I can write it as select star. That is all I can say, select all from employees. Now I got my output here like this, right? Basically select command is used to display the data like this. Okay. And suppose if I wanted to, instead of complete data, if I wanted to display any particular data, what we will do? We will use that particular column names. For example, instead of asterisk, instead of displaying complete data, if I wanted to see only employee name and salary, I can write select employee name, comma, salary from table name, that is employees, right? Like this we will write, we will use that particular column names here. You can see I said in the starting only MySQL, that is whatever SQL that is case insensitive, we can use capital letters or I mean low upper cases or lower cases, no problem. Here e name, e is capital but I used normal small e, but it should be fine because this is completely case insensitive, we can use anything, right? Let me just execute this, then I can able to see only this particular column names, right? Like that. So this is about select command. All these things we already discussed yesterday also. Now let me just first try to explain you about what is char and varchar and what is the difference between that. Okay, that is our next concept. Difference between, let me use another file. Again, as I said yesterday, this is these are SQL files here, right? So to open a one more SQL file, either we can go to this file menu, new query tab, or else shortcut we are having directly in the toolbar first icon, that is this one. If I'm clicking this, I can able to open a new SQL file again. Okay, and we can, let me rename this file. I'm just using Control S. I can able to save like this in my laptop. So I'm just giving it as class 2. Okay. Here, even I can use a save button here or else control S, anything is fine. And to save, we will use like this. And to open already saved files, we are having first icon here, folder icon. I can just click on this folder, I can select and I can open. Okay. So now let's try to understand about the difference between char and varchar, right? So what is char and what is varchar? Just now we understood, we discussed that char and varchar are two data types used for storing character data, right? So let's try to understand this example. Let me just open Paint. So let me do one thing. Here I'll give, suppose employee employee name column. I'm using char of 10. Whatever I used just now, the same thing I'm giving. I'm using for employee name column. For employee name column, I'm giving, I'm using char as a data type and I stored 10 as the size. Okay, so let's try to understand what is char and varchar now. Okay, suppose if I used char here and suppose here for this employee name, I define the size as 10. Okay, so let me just use another box. Okay, so suppose I'm saying that I used 10 as size. Okay, let me divide this box into 10 parts. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Suppose if I define employee name as char data type and I give size as 10. As I gave size as 10, just SQL won't do like this, but to make you understand, I'm just dividing the box. I took one box and I'm dividing it into 10 parts. Okay. So because here I took the size as 10. Suppose if I enter any name here, for example, I entered John as a name. So here what happened whenever I enter any character, suppose for employee name column, I used char as a data type and size is 10. And after that, if I'm inserting some data here like John, each character will enter in one box like this. Okay. So John is basically a 4-letter word. Okay. And I use the size as 10 here. Correct. So what is left over for us? We are left over with 6 more boxes. Right. That is basically the boxes here indicates whenever we are defining the size, that many bytes of memory will be reserved by the SQL. Here SQL what it will do, it will reserve 10 bytes of memory in the database for this particular column. Okay. If it is char in 10 bytes of memory, obviously each and every character will store in one byte of memory like this. This is first byte of memory J, I entered O H N, 4 bytes of memory is done. Okay, remaining whatever left over for me, like 6 bytes of memory is left over for me. That 6 bytes of memory, actually, if we are using char, this 6 bytes of memory, what SQL will do? It will be just it will use them with the blank spaces like this. So whatever, suppose we defined some size here, irrespective of the data we used. Suppose I defined a 10 as size, but I only used 4 letters. Still, all the remaining size, whatever left over, is also using here for char. If it is char, SQL will use the remaining bytes of memory also by blank spaces. It will just, padded with, we will just call it as, it will just, allocate some blank spaces here. But by default, whatever size we define here, the complete size will be used, complete memory will be used by SQL whenever we are using char as a data type. That means if this is so, whenever we are using char, I can say memory wastage is being done, right? My memory is getting wasted, correct? Am I right? Memory is wasting here because
Yes.
suppose I used 50 as a size here. Okay. In this 50, whenever I define the size as 50, by default at the backend SQL, what it will do, it stores 50 bytes of memory as a 50 bytes memory it will reserve for one column. In that 50 bytes of memory, if I enter only 10 bytes of data, then remaining 40 bytes of memory is also wasting because the remaining whatever leftover bytes are there, it is again just simply it is using, or it is filling with each byte of memory, it is filling with a blank space. And all the bytes of memory whatever I am defining, that complete thing is using it, SQL is using that complete bytes of memory for this employee name column only. So I can say memory wastage is being done in char. Whenever we define char, whatever size we define, all the size of memory is being used. That means memory wastage is happening whenever I'm using char as a data type, right? Am I clear, guys? Whatever I said. Any doubts?
No, ma'am.
Perfect. So now let's see what happened with varchar. So suppose So for the same employee name, if I use varchar as a data type and I'm using same 10 as the size. Okay. So if that is the case, here previously we used char, now I'm using varchar. Okay. So here what will happen if I used varchar? Let me just use another color here. I'm not drawing another box because same as we defined size as 10 only. What it will do again, it will take it, example, it won't really create boxes and divides. I'm just making to make you understand. I'm using like this. Okay. Suppose the size is 10 again, it will again divide this, it will again reserve the 10 bytes of memory here for varchar. Suppose 10 boxes again, suppose again I'm using same John as a name, 4 boxes will be covered, right? Each and every letter whatever I'm entering, it will use one byte of memory. Okay. But here in varchar, what will be the our leftover thing? That is again 6 boxes are left over for me, right? This 6 bytes of memory whatever left over for me, that will be, that will not be used by SQL. That 6 bytes of memory will again be given. I mean, that 6 bytes of memory, whatever left over here. In char, what it did, each and every byte, whatever left over, it just used it with the blank spaces. But varchar, what it will do, whatever remaining leftover memory is there, that will be released back to the database. SQL won't use that leftover memory. Okay, it won't use that memory. Whatever leftover memory is there, that will be not used by for the employee name column. That will be given back to the database. Okay, for this reason, I can say here memory is not getting wasted. Correct. Though I used how much of size I defined also, whatever data I enter, that much of memory only it will use. Right. If I am using varchar, suppose by default, if I gave a size as 100, if I mention size as 100 here, though I mentioned the size of 100, first it will store 100 bytes of memory for this employee name column. But suppose if I enter only 5-letter word, it will use only 5 bytes of memory and remaining 95 bytes of memory will be given back to the database. It here the remaining memory is not getting wasted for me. That is, memory is not wasting for me basically. Okay. This is the major difference between char and varchar. So by understanding this, what I can say, so mostly due to this memory wastage issue, whatever we are having inside char, we will prefer to use varchar only in real time. Mostly we will use varchar only because basically when in real time we don't know how much data we want, right? So we can, if it is okay, if I can mention size as 20 also, if I use only 3-letter word also, that is fine because the memory won't waste here. The leftover bytes of memory will be given back to the database, right? But in char, if I enter some size, the memory will be wasted. Correct. For that because we need to obviously take care about the memory, and that is the reason definitely varchar only we will use instead of char in real time. Okay, I hope I'm clear. But in which scenarios we will use char in the sense, if we know what kind of data here actually became mess. Let me open this. So in which scenarios we will use basically char and varchar in the sense, if we know what kind of data I'm going to enter in this char. For example, gender. Gender is one column. If I am using gender as a column, I know my data like maybe male and female I can enter. Okay. That is, I know how many characters of data I'm using in this particular column. At that time, I can define the size accordingly. Here only 4 letters, here only 6 letters. Like that, I can use any 7 letters, 7 as size, 6 as size, 10 as size, also no problem. Only less memory will be wasted for me, right? Like that. If I exactly know what kind of data I'm going to enter in the column, accordingly, I can use char. Okay. Or else, just to be on the safer side, every time we will use varchar, then we don't have any disadvantages here because how much data we enter also, the remaining bytes of memory will be allocated back to the SQL, right? So that is a major difference. And one more thing, in char, we can store up to 255 bytes of memory only. Okay, that is up to 255 characters data only I can store in char. If whenever again, if I'm going to store more than that data, we need to use varchar only. Obviously, due to the first use case only, we will decide what to use. But just to let you know, I'm saying this point. In char, we can store up to 255 characters only. In varchar, we can store up to 64,000 some 324, I guess. I didn't remember this exactly, but 64,000. Okay, 64K. 64,000. Characters of data we can store in varchar. Okay, that is the date, limit of that particular data type for any column. Okay, so am I clear, guys, about char and varchar?
Yes, ma'am.
Perfect. So like this is basic difference between char and varchar. Accordingly, whenever we are defining any character data, we can use either char or varchar, anything is fine. For example, here I gave char, here I use the size as 10. But whenever I enter this 3-letter word and 4-letter word, remaining all of my data memory is wasted here, right? That is the concept. Perfect. So with this, we are done with understanding how to create database, activating database, creating tables, inserting data, displaying data, difference between char and varchar. Okay. So our next concept is here, as I said, once we are done with demo classes, we will get an access for your Google Drive, folder access you will get. In that, uh, your daily wise live videos, whatever I'm explaining in the class, that videos recordings you will get. Okay, up to 6 months. You can access those videos. And I will upload all the class notes daily wise. Once we are done with one class, I will upload this notes there, and there you can find everything, like this only. I'll upload directly SQL files only, where you can see if I'm writing any theory part, I'll write inside quotes like this, and at the bottom you can see syntaxes, examples like that. Whatever we will discuss here in this course, everything we will discuss, everything we will learn by using practical examples only. The database which we are going to use here is Netflix database or movies database. Basically, on that real time database only we will going to learn all the concepts. Okay, whatever concepts are there we will learn well along with the examples practically, and we will discuss everything. Like, once we are done with the class, I will upload these files only for you. Okay, likewise here also, just now I wrote difference between char and varchar. I didn't wrote here, but in your notes you can find the differences, I mean the notes of that differences clearly. Okay, so that is the thing. And this is our last demo. Whoever are interested, you can just make the payment for them. They will get a new Zoom link, by tomorrow. That is tomorrow you can just join by using that. What is reports? Dipit, I didn't got your question.
We can make reports as well using SQL or no?
No, SQL is just used to maintain the databases. Nothing reports will be involved here.
Okay, because I was checking and I was applying for BMW, na? So they are requiring for Python and SQL for making reports. That's
Yeah,
why I was confused.
actually, those all the concepts, SQL is used for maintaining the database. Python is one programming language. Like that, maintaining reports in the sense, you know, as I said, whatever job role is there by default, you need to know SQL. That means if you are applying for those jobs, you are learning one subject, and accordingly, you need to learn other subjects like that.
Okay, so there is no use, no linkage for with reports, na?
No linkage. Whatever we are learning here, only like this database is real time also. For client, we have one database, and how we will deal with their database, how we will, basically do all the things within the database, we will learn here, and that one only will will be there for in all the companies also, along with maintaining and dealing with the database accordingly. If you are only applying for SQL developer role or data analyst role, then this SQL, for if suppose SQL developer role, SQL is only enough for you. If data analyst, along with the SQL, you need to learn Python and any visualization tool. Like that, if it is full stack along with the SQL, you need to learn some full stack subjects like Java. If it is web developer, you need to learn some more subjects like that. But by default, wherever you go, SQL is the basic concept which you need to know. In every job role, you can just search in even Naukris and all according to your location. Everywhere you can see SQL as a mandatory subject.
Okay. And on the left side, these schemas, these are database, right?
Yes, these are all the databases.
As in, like, these are database from Excel, or this is something different?
It is not Excel.
Mm-hmm.
Here where we will create databases and we will store. See, Excel, what is here in Excel? Excel is an app where we can store the data. That is okay. So here I can store any data. That is fine. Okay. But why databases? In the sense, in Excel we are having some disadvantages. We can store only up to some data only here. Okay, if I'm storing some 10 rows or 12 rows, 50 rows, up to there I don't have any issues with Excel file. But in real time we don't use small data, right? We will use millions of data, we will use thousands of data in our databases in real world, right? For that
Mm.
reason, we don't companies can't handle their big data by using Excels. Each and every company maintain their own database to store their data. So these are the databases which I created basically in companies. Whenever, suppose if I joined in any company, example I joined in Capgemini, and for Capgemini my client is so and so client, we will work, right? So basically we will work for our client's database. Example, suppose I'm working for Netflix as my client, I will connect it to, suppose for example this is the Netflix database. Directly they will give me access to use their database. I can work directly on their database, and whatever we are learning here, all the SQL concepts according to their requirement, we will work on their database.
Okay. So that's your database. And for me, I don't have any access now with these database.
No,
I
you
have to
need
make
to
my own.
create. You need to
Yeah,
create
I
all
have to
these
create.
things.
Okay, okay.
This real-time database, whatever I'm giving as an example, that one I will give once we are done with the demos. And I'll show you
Okay.
how to create for you. And these are all, actually to be frank, in each and every batch, I'll create some databases. Inside, mostly I'll have same tables only, like this. And it just I'm not deleting the databases. For our batch, I created SQL morning. In this sample tables, whatever we will cover going forward in our batch, all those will be I will create here. So you can also create one database with you. I mean your wish. You can keep any name and whatever I'm creating. Suppose for now I created yesterday employees table. Like that you can create, you can insert, you can create your own database and you can store the data in it. But real time, we will use this Maven movies as a database. I'll give you this database once we are we will start our actual concepts, and I'll show how to basically I'll give you and I'll show you how to restore this database in your laptops. Then you can just access with all these tables here. We are having in real time basically. Suppose for example, if you see in employees table, if I am executing, we entered only 3 rows of data, right? But in real time we don't really work with 3 rows or 4 rows of data, right? So we will deal with big data only. For example, I'm activating this database. In this, for example, I'm having film as a table. Let me just display that data. Select star from film. I'm having so much of rows and columns here. You can see film ID, title, description, release year, language ID. These are all the column names. And rows, if you observe, it is just showing me 1,000 rows here. 1,000 rows, you can see 1,000 rows are written. Okay. Suppose like this, we have so much of data here. Of course, if it is 5 rows of data also, we will use the same concepts. If it is 1,000 rows of data also, we will use the same concepts. But in real time, as we will, deal with big data like this, if we practice all the queries by using big data, it will be helpful for us, because joins is one concept. What we will do in joins, we will combine all the tables. Basically, joins in the sense, by using select command, what I did, whatever data I'm having in film table, I just displayed. Now I wanted to see some related data. Suppose film names I'm having here, actor names I'm having here. I wanted to know for one particular film, okay, in one film, what is the actor name? Which actor acted in that particular film? Like that of questions, if we are having to deal with that questions accordingly. Our client also, they will have some requirements. According to that requirements, we will use the SQL commands. Suppose here, if I wanted to display for some films who is the actors acted in that particular film, in the sense I'm having film data here, I'm having actor data here. I wanted to join this, we need to join these two tables, we need to use some conditions, then only we can display some data. Okay,
Okay.
like that the concept will be. So that is the reason we are using real-time database, because if we are using real-time database only, we will have related data in this many tables, so that we can learn the concepts easily, advanced concepts. If we are normally using employees table, departments table, that way of learning will be really different. That is a very basic way of learning. If we use real-time database, we can relate to the data, and whenever we are using real-time data and we are learning all the concepts in real time, whenever we join in any company, for example, if you learn this SQL my course completely, you can even work as a 4 to 5 years experienced persons, whoever working as a SQL developer I'm talking about. Okay, I mean within SQL, if you can work as that much of experienced persons, however they will work, that kind of hands-on experience you will get if you listen and if you practice whatever I say.
Okay. So with that, I can show in my CV also, na? In my resume, I can show that I have 4 year experience, 3 year experience, as you said,
See,
after doing this.
that is what for SQL you can show. Just by learning this, you cannot show you have 4 years experience of data analytics, because there we have different subjects. For SQL developer, you can show you have 4 years experience.
Yeah. Okay. For
Okay, that
for
is
SQL.
depending upon the job roles you will apply. Only for SQL you will get the experience.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, because we are learning only SQL in this course.
Mm-hmm. But SQL is enough. Then I'll go after with other Python and other Power BI or whatever Tableau.
Yes, actually, that is the thing. You need to decide what job role you want. Okay, if only
Mhm.
with SQL, you can try for SQL developer roles. If you want to become data analyst, along with SQL, you need to learn Python. You need to learn any visualization tool. It may be Tableau or Power BI.
Okay. And when Python, it's like, do I have to do it full stack or the normal Python?
Normal Python is enough for data analyst. We have some
Normal Python.
libraries in it, like mainly
NumPy, na?
Pandas, NumPy, Matplotlib.
You conduct these classes also for
These
Python.
three. With DurgaSoft, I'm not conducting.
Okay, okay.
Okay, within DurgaSoft, I'm only teaching MySQL and Tableau. But usually, I'm a data science professional. I have experience in teaching all the data science subjects like SQL, Tableau, Power BI, Python, statistics, machine learning. All those concepts I will explain. But within DurgaSoft, I'm explaining only SQL and Tableau. So for data analyst, or I don't even talk about data scientist for now. For data analyst, you need to learn Python as well. Okay, if not Python, also some companies are preferring, if you learn SQL and Tableau or Power BI also, you can try for applying the jobs. But as we are having huge demand in the market for data analysts, accordingly everyone are learning these subjects, and competition is also getting high. For that reasons, if you learn Python, then you can get a job very easily. Because for interview, suppose if they are attending 10 persons for any interview, in that if 3 persons are having knowledge on Python and 7 persons are learning only this subjects, obviously whoever know Python, for them only they will give the preference, right? Like that. So you need to learn Python also. Then basically, if without Python, if you get also, I mean, you can get a job, but again after 2 years also you need to learn Python. In data analyst, definitely you need to learn these subjects. Here Tableau or Power BI, it's your wish, any visualization tool is okay. Okay, but Python you need to learn, SQL you need to learn to become a data analyst. In mostly the libraries used for data analyst in Python is this one you need to learn. NumPy, Pandas, and Matplotlib is one library by using which we will create some visualizations. Okay, that will be again, Python is very easy programming language. It's not like Java and all. Java, full stack, all those things are completely programming language. Even I know all the full stack subjects, even I know all the web development subjects. But still, when comparing to that, Python is a very easy programming language. It is a programming language only, you need to write code only, but you can learn it very easily. That will be very simple.
Okay, ma'am.
So like that. Okay, so if there is any questions for anyone, you can just ask me, or else we'll meet in the tomorrow session. Let me continue with SQL sub languages tomorrow. And as I showed you in yesterday, this is the course content which we are going to follow, and as you attended this session, you will get an email. In that also you can, you will get a link of this page where you can find the course content which we are going to follow in our course. Okay, so up
Ma'am,
to intake.
daily same time will you conduct or?
Yes, same time 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. IST.
Okay.
Okay,
Duration 35 days, right?
duration is 35 days. Okay, 35 classes actually. Okay, if I take mostly, I'll take from Monday to Friday. If needed, some Saturdays we will take, but 35 sessions I will take.
Okay. Sure.
35 sessions, and course fees is of 3,000 only. Okay, and whoever get registered, they will get a link, new Zoom link tomorrow. Please use that link and join. Okay.
Sure.
Ma'am, Saturday, as you said, it's not possible for me. Saturday, Sunday, I do have another classes.
Yeah, Sunday I won't take. Saturdays also mostly I won't take. In all these 35 days, maybe one Saturday I'll take, like that. If I had to take, I will take to complete the portion. Mostly I also won't prefer to take classes on Saturdays. Monday to Friday I'll take. Some Saturdays if needed we will take. But again, if you not only Saturday, in between also, if any day you miss the class, you can watch the recording, you can ask me doubts, and almost like this I will repeat that subjects also in the classes.
Okay, that would be feasible. Okay,
Yeah.
no problem.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right,
And I
guys.
have one more doubt.
Yes,
Do
please.
we get any some like we can share our queries or like WhatsApp group or like Telegram group after this
WhatsApp group,
journey?
actually in DurgaSoft we won't use WhatsApp groups. If you want, if you need, we will create a Telegram group. But to
Mm-hmm.
be frank, I in Telegram groups we will have so much of disturbances. We will get so many ads kind of thing. Let's discuss about it. Okay, no problem. Once we are
Okay,
getting
okay,
to actual classes, I will tell you about those things. If you
okay,
have any questions, how to reach me, and if needed, if we are asked to create any Telegram group also, they will create.
okay, okay,
All right.
okay.
Okay.
Otherwise, I can join your batch something.
Sorry.
I can join like your Python, na? After that, SQL and Python.
Okay. So yeah, as I said, for now I'm not teaching Python. I'm teaching MySQL and Tableau only for now.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. All right, guys.
Ma'am, one more thing is,
Yes,
uh,
please.
I'm currently working as manual tester. So will this course will be
Sorry,
useful?
Santosh. Can you please repeat? You're currently working.
Manual tester.
Okay.
So whether this course will be useful to fit for database testing role?
Yes, of course. whoever, even looking for transition, whoever want to transit into IT or within IT also, when whoever wanted to shift their job roles, they need to learn SQL only first.
Okay.
Okay, SQL is, I can say, it is a backbone for complete IT industry. Wherever you go, it is a minimum basic subject we should know. And only if you are trying to, completely settle down as a SQL developer also, these concepts are enough. Along with that, with some experience, you can, you can become a perfect SQL developer. Okay.
Okay.
All right, guys, we are done with the times. We are done with the time. I hope everything is clear, right? Do you have any questions, anyone? If everything is clear, I'll end the session now. Let's meet in tomorrow's class. Perfect.